Thanks for staying with us. The City of Tshwane is still without a mayor. There was a sitting yesterday to elect a new mayor, but it was adjourned because there was an issue with a COPE representative. Now, there was no clarity on whether or not he had the authorization to be there or not to be there. Let's get into details now with political analyst Lukhanyo Vangqa. Lukhanyo, thank you so much for your time. Is COPE holding this council to ransom, basically hostage?
Hi, good evening, Bongiwe, and good evening to the viewers as well. What's happening in the city of Tshwane, I previously described as a tragic comedy of Shakespearean proportions. And I think I will continue with that theme and say it is a tale told by fools, full of fury, sound, signifying nothing, because it is all meaningless to the person on the streets. Now, to answer the question more directly on COPE, the person that COPE has proposed to replace Dr. Makwarela, who himself was removed due to allegations of forging court documents, this individual is said to be in possession of 2 identity documents. Now, I think COPE needs to do some serious introspection about the quality of their public representatives and the leadership that they offer to the public to occupy positions of trust, such as being elected into public office, because it really is an absurdity that such individuals can be proffered by COPE to occupy such serious positions of responsibility in public life.
And it boggles the mind. I mean, you hear about, this Mr. Justice Sifanyet. So on one end, there's a letter that says he must be the representative. On another end, it comes from a different faction of COPE that says he shouldn't be the person that needs to be in council to replace Dr. Makwarela. This also tells us just before, just outside of the council, just a little bit, it tells us also about the ongoing fractions within that political party itself.
Yes, and how those factions within that party that have destabilized COPE are now destabilizing the city of Tshwane in the same way that they destabilized COPE. So justice seems to have support from the Bloom and Likota faction, and seems to be opposed by the Bloom and Madisha faction. He seems to be opposed by the faction that belongs to Likota, together with the chairperson, with the speaker, of the city of Tshwane. So those 2 factions are opposed to justice, and you see how they are now revealing issues about the 2 IDs that he has or is alleged to have. And that is all just causing instability, and it causes a lack of trust in our politicians, in our politics, and our democratic institutions. That individuals can be involved in corruption and fraud at such a grand scale really knocks public confidence in our democratic institutions. And once that public confidence is eroded, people really will disengage from the political process, and they will use non-democratic means to effect the change that they wish to see in terms of service delivery, the quality of their lives. And you will see more of these protests that tend to turn violent in South Africa.
And the difficulty with all of this is that this is a council that it has to be seized with issues of service delivery, and at the same time has to be seized with the passing of the budget. So if all of these things are going on, it simply means that the residents basically now are going to be on the back foot and service delivery non-existent.
Yes, and I think the city of Tshwane really has plowed new levels of meaninglessness because all of these things that are happening, the challenges that are there, you don't see a single iota of mention about service delivery in the city of Tshwane. The water situation in Hammanskraal, the fact that townships in Tshwane don't get service delivery. You don't even hear a mention of the budget that needs to be passed that you've spoken about as well. So really these things mean that the public interest has taken a back burner to the politics of spectacle and absurdity that have seemed to occupy and come to characterize the city of Tshwane Council's political processes.
And Lukhanyo, this, of course, is, yes, Tshwane has its own issues, but we saw issues in Johannesburg, we saw issues in Ekurhuleni, just to mention a few. Now, these squabbles within council are also showing us that coalition arrangements, just in and themselves, need quite a lot of looking into. So should this be the norm when it comes to the elections going into the future? Are we ready?
I mean, we've been in coalition politics for the past about 7 years, I believe, since 2016. And you would hope that the political parties have really invested some resources to be able to manage the dynamics of coalition arrangements, having learned from what has happened in Nelson Mandela Bay, having learned from the instability in both the city of Tshwane and the city of Johannesburg. But only recently, I think it was last month, the ANC appointed David Makura to be the person that is going to be responsible for drafting a document that is going to govern how the ANC engages in coalition politics. I mean, 7 years later, only now do you start to put that in place, those systems, processes, and policies in place. Only now. I mean, really, people are not taking the interest of the public at heart, and they're really not taking their responsibilities as leaders very seriously. If only 7 years later, they are going to put those structures in place to be able to manage coalition politics. Coalition politics are still going to be with us for a very long time, and these are teething problems. For the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to have politics, and they're going to graduate to our national level. And I hope by that time, these political parties would have learned to put in place systems and processes to be able to manage in a qualitative manner their political engagements when it comes to coalition politics.
And Lukhanyo, you know, one also looks at the parties not being able also in some instances to find one another. But in some instances, it's the very own political parties that are not able to find each other. Just one political party having so many different views. And we've seen even with some of the arrangements that there would be complaints to say if they are governed at national, a person may be parachuted into council and overlooking some of the people that would be in council themselves, which are also some of the allegations we're seeing at play in Tshwane as well, coming out of the Democratic Alliance, allegations that, you know, some of the councillors feel that they're being overlooked. Is it a problem that some of these arrangements are being managed at national level, or is it okay for them to be managed there and simply just maybe tell those in council what to do?
Yes, I think the problem is not the levels at which they are managed, but it's the principles around which they are managed. So we don't have a values-based approach to this coalition governments. It's all about personalities or positions. So you'd find that the PA will get into bed with whichever political party is going to give them particular positions, but there's no values alignment that they can coalesce around as political parties. And once you don't have that values-based coalescence with regards to these coalition agreements, then they will always be fragile, and they can always break at any time and disintegrate at any time on a small misunderstanding, on someone that has taken exception to someone that someone else has said, and not really on the important issues. However, if they were values-based, those values would be the ones that remain as the glue to hold these coalitions together. So what we need to graduate towards as well is a values-based coalition politics. And I think our institutions of higher learning, together with NGOs and the individuals that fund these political parties, need to insist on certain values that need to form the core in any agreement for coalition agreements in the different spheres. Whether or not they're managed at local and national level is not going to change the fact that they are not values-based and there are no values alignment with some of the coalition partners.
And it's going to be interesting how this one plays out. You think about how service delivery is a challenge in the city of Tshwane, refuse collection, quite a lot going on, potholes on the roads. There's just so much that needs urgent attention when it comes to service delivery. But let's see if Tshwane will have a mayor or not at some point soon. We don't know. Thank you, Lukhanyo, for your time. We do appreciate it. That was a political analyst, Lukhanyo Vangqa. And of course, a lot of people waiting to see who is going to be the mayor of Tshwane, and will they be able to stay on and actually finish their term.